What's up, everybody? I'm back again today with part 3 of this never-ending Q&A video. So, probably won't be finished this time, probably won't be finished next time, but maybe the time after that, I don't know. Unless I get through these really quick, but I don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot of questions in here that are going to get me all amped up, I think. Especially in this one. Maybe not this one, maybe the next one, I'm not sure. But there are some that, like, I really wanted to talk about, and I'm going to get off on a big tangent, I know. But anyway, we're going to jump right back into these. So, as you guys notice, I haven't been editing these videos. Like, I haven't even edited out the beginning and the end like I normally do, where I'm turning on the camera. It's lazy, I know, but what can you do? I'm lazy, and I'm not gonna like render an hour video just to edit out the first like 5 seconds and the last 5 seconds. So if you guys don't like it, sorry. I'm lazy. You should be used to that by now. But anyway, first question in the part 3 is from Hectro or Zero. I don't know. I'm gonna say Hectro because that seems better. And also check out his channel. I know he makes videos, and I'm subbed to him, so you should also sub to him. Good guy. So let's see. First question from Hectro is: you seem to finish a lot of games. Would you say that you finish a game more often than not once you start playing it? Yes. I tend to finish nearly every game I buy. So I have a lot of games behind me. You can't see them in the video. It doesn't really matter. I've got hundreds and hundreds of games behind me. And I've finished nearly all of them. The games I don't finish, there are some games I don't finish where I just stop playing. But generally, if I stop playing a game, it's because I'm not enjoying it. So, if you've ever, seen my impressions videos, it's rare that I find I'm talking about a game that I dislike. And that's mostly because if I'm disliking the game, I'm playing for a couple hours and I just don't like it, I'm thinking like this game is terrible, I usually stop playing. But even games that are just like, this game is kind of mediocre to like not so great, I'll still finish those because sometimes they get better and sometimes they don't. But if a game I'm just like really not having fun with, I'll just stop playing it. But it's like such a small percentage of games that are like that I tend to finish nearly everything. So it's kind of a part of my personality, I think, in that once I start something, I have like the OCD need to finish it, or I get I get antsy. I feel like I can't go on to the next game until I finish the game I'm playing. So yeah, I finish nearly everything I buy, especially new stuff. If I buy something new, I'm gonna play it right away and finish it as fast as I can. Not necessarily as fast as I can, but you know what I mean. As much as I get out of it, I'll get out of it, and then I'll move to the next game, because I do have a bunch of a backlog, obviously, because sometimes I'll pick up 20 games at a time, and it's kind of obviously I can't play all of those at once, but I can eventually get to them, and I usually do. I mean, I don't actually do this like the games I've cleared video, like the games I cleared each month. I don't do a video of that in English. I do one in Japanese, and you can see like I usually beat about, I don't know, 4 or 5 games a month, and that's usually like 2 or 3 of those are RPGs. So if I stopped playing RPGs and just like played action games that were shorter or whatever, I would be clearing like 8 or 9 games a month, I'd guess. And but generally I don't tend to play shorter games. I tend to play longer games, so the amount of games I actually clear is a bit less than it could be. So yeah, I beat a lot of games, and I have problems with not beating them. Actually, I get antsy, so I have to. So next question: are you planning on playing Deception 4? Because I want to buy that game and would be interested in hearing about it. I have a good answer to that. Somewhere. I can't find it. I actually have it. I have it already. I've been playing it for the past week or so. Not a week. Probably about 3 or 4 days now. But it's, it's got a lot of content, and so far it's really fun and satisfying to play. So, and there's a lot of things I didn't know that are in it, that I'll talk about when I do an impressions video, but If you're on the fence, like you're thinking, I don't know if I want to buy it or I don't want to buy it. It's good. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's fun. It's definitely fun. So yeah, Deception, get that. Let's see. So thanks for the questions there. We've got next Mario Jordison. If that's how you pronounce your name, I don't know. But we've got. Do you like Suikoden or Xenosaga? Suikoden, I've only played Suikoden 1 and 2 on the PS1. And past that, I haven't played any of those games. And I played those so long ago, I barely remember them. I actually played those when they first came out. And beyond that, I honestly, I barely remember the stories for those. It's been like how long ago did those games come out? 15 years ago. It's been about that long since I've even touched the series. So um, I guess I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't go out of my way to play those games, but that game, Suikoden was good. I've never played Xenosaga. It's the kind of thing where it doesn't look like I'd enjoy it only because of the content. I mean, it's possible that I would, but I haven't played those, and I wasn't really interested in them when they came out, and I'm not interested in playing them now. So it's kind of, you know, I don't know. It's I know a lot of people really like those, but it's just probably I kind of have an idea of things I will like and things I won't like, and I have a feeling that I wouldn't enjoy those. So yeah, Xenosaga is a no go for me. So next question: who's your favorite SMT slash spin-off character? Um, I don't know. That's hard because there are a lot of cool characters in the SMT games, and I think I tend to gravitate towards liking the Chaos characters more than anything. Um, but really, I think like though in the last video I was saying that I thought the Devil Summoner games were like were like my least favorite. I think um, the characters in those games are really good. So I really like all the Kuzunoha characters. I mean, everybody knows Raido is the main one in that one, but there's another one. I think Reiji is his name in the first Devil Summoner game, and I thought he's really cool. I really like him, and I also like Raido a lot. So I'll probably go with Raido only because it's really cool. I just think he's really cool, even though the game he's in is not as good as like pretty much any of the other games. Um, let's see. So, all right, that's the end for Mario Jordison here. Thanks for questions. And we've got next Kazekage Gara. And he asks, or she asks, I don't know, I guess he. What are your thoughts on Persona Q at the moment? Persona Q, I don't like the art style, but I think it's going to be a good game. I mean, it's made, essentially, it looks like, oh, damn it, what is Etrian Odyssey? I can only think of the Japanese name at that point. Etrian Odyssey, but with Persona characters, and I think that's fine. It looks, it doesn't look like it's gonna play exactly like a Persona game. It looks like it's gonna be more Etrian Odyssey than Persona at this point. Oh, I mean, I could be wrong, but they are adding like all characters can use two personas. That's weird. And it's first person, which is cool. I mean, the first Persona is first person too, so it's kind of like almost like a throwback at that point. But it's pretty interesting. I've got it pre-ordered already. I mean, of course I'm gonna buy it, and of course I'm gonna play through it twice with both main characters. So regardless of like how it actually turns out, I will play through it twice because I like first-person dungeon crawlers already. So even if it's like not great, which I would be really surprised if it wasn't good, I'll still play through it for the stories. So you guys will hear about it eventually, long before it comes out there. You'll hear about it here because it comes out faster here. Same with all of those Persona games, I guess, because I will play Persona 5 this year when it comes out, and I will probably take time off work to play it, so I'll get it done really quick. But anyway, it's looking pretty good so far, despite like the goofy art style that I don't like. But I don't like Etrian Odyssey's art style either, so it's the kind of thing where, I don't really care at this point about the art style so much as long as the game is fun to play. And a first-person dungeon crawler sounds good to me, so it will be good. And next question, which is your favorite main SMT game 1 through 4? I think I answered this, but 1, I guess, is probably my favorite for the story. It's not the best system. It's probably the worst system, actually, out of all of them, because it's the kind of prototype system. But I like the story and the setting more for 1 than any of the games. I guess, like, also 3 has that same kind of setting where you start off in the normal city and then, like... But it's not exactly the same, because in 3, like, the whole city changes drastically. I mean, it's not, like, the same thing at all. Where in the first game, it's the same place, but it's all kind of post-apocalyptic after, like, the halfway point. So, yeah. Verse 1, that's probably the best one. For me, story-wise at least, which is the most important thing. Okay, so, thanks for questions, and we've got Dornai is the next person asking questions. Definitely check out his channel. He likes first-person dungeon crawlers, probably more than me, even. His channel is full of gameplay for first-person dungeon crawlers, and he plays Japanese stuff and English stuff, and he does more in-depth play than I do for those games. So definitely check him out. I mean, I've shouted him out before in a different video, but definitely check out him, Dornai, if you can. So let's see. He's asking good questions here. How do you feel about RPGs today in general? Are they better than the ones we played when we were kids, or is it just because of nostalgia, or is that because companies try to focus more on other stuff than gameplay? Okay, this is a good question, because today I think RPGs... I mean, a lot of people have this kind of image like, oh, the games we played and the RPGs we played on the Super Nintendo or the RPGs we played on the PlayStation 1 are the best RPGs ever. They're never going to get better than that. Or the stories are so great. Or I think a lot of that is nostalgia, really. I can think of a lot of games that like people consider like the best RPGs of all time from that era that like really they're not that great. Or they're really, and I can think of a lot of games from that era that are better than games like Chrono Trigger or Earthbound that, people aren't like on the jock of, I guess is the easiest way to say that, you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of that I think a lot of the popularity of Chrono Trigger has to do with the art by Akira Toriyama and the kind of hype it has behind it. Like, people play it going into it expecting to have to like it, and they like it because of that. And for example, like I played Chrono Trigger back in like 1996 or something. I don't even remember. It was a long time ago, but I remember not incredibly liking it all that much. And I played it again after that, and I still thought like, I don't know why everyone is telling me to play this. And this was like way back in the day too. It was popular then. Like, people were saying, you got to play this. And the same with Earthbound, actually, because I played Earthbound the first time in like maybe 1998 or something. It was really like, it was after it was already out, but like not so far into the next gen that like it was impossible for me to play it. So I played that then, and I thought, like, Earthbound is a good game. It's fun, but, like, it's not the greatest RPG ever. It's got a charm. It's got, like, that kind of Earthboundy feel to it, but it's not amazing. Like, I didn't find it to be, like, life-changing. And, like, even more than those two, Final Fantasy VII was, like, better than those games on like a lot of levels, and I wouldn't even consider that game to be like the best RPG ever. And I can think of games that have come out way after that. I can think of games that have come out recently that are better than all three of those games. So it's the kind of thing where I think a lot of times there are a lot of RPGs that are coming out still that are spectacular, and I just think the genre itself has not, it's just not as popular. So a lot of people are just down on it. They're just kind of give this, oh, I don't like RPGs. I don't like this old style of game or whatever, or I don't like this kind of same old battle system or whatever. But I think people who say that kind of thing just don't play RPGs. They don't realize that a turn-based battle system is not the same for every turn-based game, and they're like another example of this is like I saw a review of what's it called, Might and Magic 10, which I haven't played yet. If anybody's played it, please tell me what your impressions are. But I've seen some video of it, and I've seen reviews, and one person was complaining that like in this day and age you should never have a grid-based movement system in a dungeon crawler ever, because technology allows free movement. And I thought that is the stupidest thing I had ever heard in my life. I can put in Wizardry 1, the first Wizardry made in like 1981, and that is still a fun game regardless of how old it is. So the movement system is grid-based. I've played tons of grid-based games that are made recently that are way more fun than games where you can freely move about just because you can. That's ridiculous. I think like people who say game is like too old school are too new school, if you know what I mean. Like those people don't understand like what makes an old game still playable or good despite being old. And that's not to say old games are all good. There are a bunch of bad old games. But there are a bunch of games that are old that people consider bad that are not bad. Definitely, or not as bad as people say they are. And they're just kind of either they're not used to the difficulty level, or they're not used to the kind of way that games were made then. And it's just a kind of a generational thing, I think. And it's not even that, because there are young people who can appreciate, younger people who didn't grow up with this kind of stuff or weren't used to it when they were kids, who can appreciate this kind of thing now. But I think when someone says something ridiculous about like, oh, this game is too hard, it's too old school difficulty or whatever, I think you're a noob. That's what I think. I just think, there's no such thing as old school difficulty. There's a such thing as like properly made difficulty, or modern day super easy. Let's get achievements every 10 seconds and beat a game in 5 hours because it's so easy and the game holds your hand through the whole thing. There's that. So I don't know. I kind of went off on this because it's a topic I think is like important, because people do talk, like a lot of people will say that, oh, RPGs aren't as good anymore, or JRPGs are dead or whatever. But like I can think of a bunch of JRPGs that are made in recent years that are way better than anything that was ever made in the past. So, take that for what you will. Let's see. So, next question from Dornai. First-person dungeon crawlers seem to get a little more popular recently, and they're cheaper to produce and offer general good gameplay. Do you think people will end up moving to that genre a little? Probably not. For the exact reason that I'm saying, like, first-person dungeon crawlers tend to be a bit more difficult and a bit less hand-holdy, I guess. They require you to build parties with strategy in mind. You can't just kind of pick whatever. You have to do something you have to think about how you battle it all the time, or you'll die. And I think a lot of people aren't used to that kind of thing when they play games. They kind of want to mindlessly hit the button when they're going through their normal battles. And you can do that in first-person dungeon crawlers a lot, but when you get to a boss and the boss is just wiping your party, I think a lot of people get frustrated with that kind of thing, instead of like adjusting the way they're fighting to the boss. And I think that kind of thing holds back the popularity of a first-person dungeon crawler. And a lot of people just don't like first-person. I mean, that also factors into it. And then there's also the same people who I mentioned earlier who are just like, you can't have a grid-based system because technology allows free movement now. Those people, whoever they are, morons. Anyway, thanks for the questions, Doranai. Again, check him out. And next we've got a question from Ibara-san, who is a Japanese viewer. So this is a question that is hard to translate because he's asking me if I played games during my testing period for school. And that's hard because, I'm from the US and we didn't really have a testing period. You know what I mean? Like, not like Japan anyway. So, hell, I played games all the time when I was in school. I didn't care if there were tests or not. And, like, that's the kind of thing where I'm really good at taking tests. That's like, but I had crappy grades throughout all of high school because I was jackass, essentially. What I would... it's like the kind of thing where I would look at the class and I would be like, what is the minimum amount of work I need to do to pass? And then I would figure that out and just do that. So, if there was like a big paper that was like 10% of my grade, I was like, fuck, I don't have to do that shit. 10%, I can get by on tests alone doing that. So I would just skip just straight up skip work and skip class all the time. It's weird because like I say that and it makes me sound like I was like a thug in high school, but I wasn't really. I was just kind of like didn't want to be there. And in comparison to that, when I was in college, I had the highest grade point average in my department. So if that gives you any kind of indication of like how much I didn't want to be in high school and how much I actually put into my college work. When I graduated, I got to carry a flag. I was the flag bearer for my department because I had the highest GPA. But yeah, that's that's pretty much how I'd answer that. So yeah. So next question. Oh man, this one is gonna get me even more amped than the last one. This is Zephyro, and he has asked me about mother grabbing Capcom. I just skipped the page there, so I'm like trying to find the question. So he asks, what do you think about Capcom's state and its games like Resident Evil and Mega Man? This is like a topic I almost made a video on, but I figured like, man, I just don't want to make another kind of video about newsy stuff. And but about Capcom. So this is not like exactly his question, but recently, like, if you heard people saying like, oh, Capcom's not doing well, Capcom is going to go out of business in 2 years. Capcom has no money. If you've heard that, you've heard it from an idiot. That's all I'm saying. You've heard it from a complete moron. That's all. I mean, that's all I can say. Because this is like the thing where I don't know if I've mentioned this in a video, but I know I've mentioned it to other people on YouTube, that critical thinking skills, people, please use them. If someone makes a claim, and a claim like, Capcom is going to go out of business, research the claim. And this is the kind of thing, okay, there was originally, this whole rumor thing started initially on this, like, kind of clickbaity game website saying, like, Capcom only has like $150 million cash on hand or whatever, and that's like not enough money for the next generation, so they're going to go out of business. And that actually from the clickbaiting website was taken from another website where a US analyst was saying that like he didn't think that was enough money for the next generation. Not that like it was bad, but that he just, in his opinion, an American analyst on a Japanese company was saying that 150 million cash on hand, which is again not their entire assets, which is totally different than that. But the thing with that is that just like clickbait mongers on YouTube, like horrible, those horrible news channels that just like put any shitty like please click this video because it's outrageous type of thing, like Review Tech USA, shit like that. Went off on that shit, and I just thought like that is the stupidest thing ever because it's such an easy claim to check. Capcom is a publicly traded company. You can go to their website and check their financial information. You can look at it. You can look at their financial information for the past 15 years or so. So when people made this claim like, oh, Capcom is doing bad, Capcom is going to go out of business, what I did was that anyone with marginally good critical thinking skills would do is go and check their financial information. So went to their website, looked at their past 10 years of financial information, looked at all of the information, and you can see clearly Capcom's cash on hand has been pretty much the same for the past 15 years. They keep it at a level. It's not that they're like this is all they have. It's they keep that at that level. It's been the same. It hasn't gone drastically down. And you can also see their total assets is over $1 billion. You can also see that recently they've been saying stuff like, we're going to hire 1,000 new developers in the next coming years. And all of their financial information is still profits. They're not like losing money every year. They're every time, even though like maybe this year they made less than last year, they're still making money. It's not like they're in the red. They're still in the black. That's not the signs of hiring 1,000 new people and making money every quarter is not a sign of a company that's going to go out of business in 2 years. It's not the sign of a company that is even like in trouble. It's the sign of a company that's growing. If anything, if you're going to hire 1,000 new people, and like even if they don't hire 1,000 new people, if they hired 100 new people, it's still like a sign that they're growing. So that whole thing, it's totally blown out of proportion. And like I was gonna originally make a video at that time, and I just thought it's not worth it. I don't care. People should know that like retards on the internet don't know what they're talking about. But it's grown since then. Now everybody is saying like, if you go to any like news article about Capcom, people are always like, oh, Capcom's doing horribly now. Like, because they're idiots. That's the only thing I can say. Check their website. You can go right now. Don't even take my word for it. Go to Capcom's website, look at their financial information. Public knowledge. Publicly traded company. You can download it from their website in handy Excel format, so you can do it. All the calculations you want to do to judge between years, the change in percentages, you can do all of that. There's no reason to believe that. And first of all, anybody makes a claim, especially an outrageous claim, check the source. And then check the source's source. Do all of that stuff and if you can get direct information, especially direct information like if the topic is financial and you can get direct financial information from the company, trust that over anything. So that's what I wanted to talk about for Capcom. I probably could go on for this more because I actually have notes on my computer, but I'm not going to bring them up because I don't want to search for it. But I have notes on my computer more in depth, giving plain examples from the financial information from Capcom's website. And it's stuff like between the years, like this and this, like Capcom's financial information is like above pretty much every year except for like 1 or 2 years in the past 10 years or something. So that kind of thing. I mean, I might be off by 1 or 2 days in that because I'm just doing it from the top of my head from stuff I wrote months ago. But regardless, there's that. But also, the question he's really asking, though, besides what I think about Capcom currently, is about things like Resident Evil and Mega Man. And you know what? I don't really care about those things. Capcom, they used to be like really one of my favorite developers, and they're still pretty high up in my developers that I like because they make games that are good. And if you look at the games they've made on the 360 or the PS3 in the last year or so, I think there's not really any games in there that are bad. I mean, there are games that are, kind of mediocre, but nothing that's like awful. And I didn't play Resident Evil 6. I'm not really a huge Resident Evil fan anymore. But it could have been bad because it's not what people expected. But I think like if you took it as an action game over a survival horror game, it probably isn't bad. It's probably just a you know relatively okay action game, but not what people wanted. So what they're gonna do with Resident Evil, I don't know. I don't really care. I don't care if they move it back towards more horror or they move it towards like more action, whatever. Doesn't really affect me because I probably am not going to be buying Resident Evil, um, unless like it's I find it for super cheap and I'm just like in a weird mood where I want to play Resident Evil for some reason. But I don't know, stuff like that. Resident Evil, not I don't really care. Mega Man is the same. I haven't played. The last Mega Man game I bought was Mega Man 10, and that was a downloadable game. And I think like a lot of people who are complaining like, oh no, Mega Man, they canceled Mega Man Legends 3. People are still salty about that. That was years ago, and like also at the time it made sense to cancel Mega Man Legends 3. No one was buying the 3DS at the time. No one wanted that game. I mean, people wanted that game, but I think like it wasn't enough to warrant developing it for Capcom. And so I understand why they canceled it. It makes sense business wise. Um, it's the kind of I mean, I can understand why people would be not unhappy with that because they want that game, but like seriously, Mega Man games have not been like the sales for those things. Check them out. They get lower and lower every time. Nobody's buying that series, and like Capcom made a bunch of those games, and they made a bunch of different ones too, and they made a bunch of compilations, and they made a bunch of ports and stuff like that for Mega Man, and nobody bought that stuff. So it's the kind of thing where they just feel like, why should we throw all this money into developing it if ain't nobody gonna buy it? That's the kind of thing you have to worry about when you're a company, and and also like with Keiji Inafune leaving the company, there's nobody to spearhead that. It's not anybody. I'm sure people like Mega Man, but without him, it's not like I think there's somebody at Capcom who's like, screw Keiji Inafune, we're not making more Mega Man. It's probably more like there's nobody at Capcom who is like, I want to be the lead of the Mega Man game, so give that job to me. That's how companies work, especially in Japan. People have to put forward their proposals and fight for them. Without the person who was doing it, that kind of falls apart. So I think a lot of Capcom has a real like negative stigma to them now that they don't really deserve, because it's not like they have done anything like incredibly egregious that other companies aren't doing either. Like, yeah, they made a bunch of versions of Street Fighter, but they've been making a bunch of versions of Street Fighter for 20 years. If you're surprised by that, you're kind of late to the game. Yeah, they had DLC. Well, on disc DLC is not something new. It's not like Capcom pioneered that. And stuff like anytime any game bought from Capcom has DLC, people are like, oh, we hate Capcom for their DLC. It's not like Capcom is the only company that puts DLC out. EA puts more horribly egregious violations of what like should be considered reasonable DLC, way more than anything Capcom has ever done. And I mean, even Nintendo has like these. I mean, seriously, have you seen the DLC for what's it called? Fire Emblem on the 3DS? How much DLC is there? There's like 100 things, man. It's like ridiculous. That's like way more than anything Capcom has ever done. So if you're gonna hate on Capcom for their DLC, you're gonna be hating on Nintendo too, because I have no doubt that some of that stuff at least is on the card. So yeah, take that as you will. I think Capcom has a real negative kind of stigma attached to them that's undeserved. And I'm not saying they make awesome games all the time, but they make some good stuff. And if you're like on this anti-Capcom bandwagon because it's a bandwagon and not because it's you have a legitimate complaint, then sorry. I think that's kind of stupid. So, yep, that's a lot about Capcom. That was that was one of the topics that I think no one's going to agree with me on. I think people are going to angrily comment about that. But screw it, man. I don't care. Um, I'm going straight up from how I feel on that. So, whatever. So let's see. Next question. What is your opinion about the Shenmue series? And have you ever played it? And do you like it? I played Shenmue 1 when it first came out on the Dreamcast. I've got a funny story about playing Shenmue on the Dreamcast. I bought Shenmue and I was like crazy into it. And I kept playing it and playing it for hours and hours. And my girlfriend at the time came over to my house and I'm like playing Shenmue. And she came in and like I'm just playing Shenmue and ignoring her. She freaked out on me and started screaming. And like this is true. She's like yelling at me like about ignoring her and and I'm just like, well, okay. And then she like stormed out, and I wasn't really ignoring her so much as like I was, I was talking to her and stuff, but I was also playing the game, so I wasn't looking at her essentially, and she was like pissed off and screaming at me, and so she stormed out of the house, and I was just like, well, fuck it, see ya, and went back to playing Shenmue, and then she came back and apologized and whatever, and then I just told her to go home because I was going to play Shenmue because screw that. If you're going to scream at me, then get the hell out. So she got out, and eventually she didn't. I didn't break up with her or anything then, but I mean after that, not because of that, but a little bit after that I did, but totally unrelated. But that's my Shenmue story. So Shenmue, I have a screaming at me memory attached to the game. But also, I played Shenmue 2 on the Dreamcast as well. I imported the European version back when, it came out because, America never got it, which sucked. That was awful. But it was, I mean, and it's more awful. I kind of wish I didn't play it now because it's even more awful now because Shenmue 3 never came out. So, yeah, I would play Shenmue 3, but I don't think it's ever going to get made. If it got made, I would be really surprised because at this point, like, who remembers the story that isn't like a crazed Sega fan? I remember the story and, because I've played the game recently, but, people who play games now, like, there's tons of people who are just like, never heard of the series, never played it, no interest. I don't think it would sell that well. Although hopefully they could make it for a lot cheaper than it cost the initial time for making Shenmue. But it would be good to see it, but I doubt it's ever going to get made. So yeah, Shenmue. Alright, so yes, my favorite movies, but I actually talked about a lot about that in the last video, so I'm going to skip that question. So Zephyro, thanks for questions. Next, this is going to be a really hard one. This is FFX. Well, I guess that's be FF12KD. I'm guessing that's Roman numeral 12. XIIKD. That's what it is. It's just a string of letters I can't pronounce. But he asked me my best 5 music composers, character designers, and story writers. I have no idea the names of people. I don't even pay attention to that stuff so much. It's the kind of thing where, like, I can think of some games where I like the soundtracks, but I don't usually follow, like, the composers. So, like, there's few that I know, but, like, I don't follow them so much. Same with character designers. Like, I mean, I like character designers for some games, but, like, I'm not, like, generally a fan of designers to the point where, like, I want to get all the games they did the character design for. I just think of, like, overall games as, like a whole package, and I determine from there if I want to play it or not. So, story writers, I don't even know, man. If we were talking about books, I could tell you, but for games, I don't know. I can't. I could the amount of story writers I could name, I could probably count on my hand. Um, it's just the kind of part of being a game fan that I'm not like hugely into. I'm like more into genre and concept than I am like the music and the person who wrote the story so much. It's that's those are bad examples. I think people are going to be mad about that. But I don't really have any answers. I can't. I mean, without looking up who did what, I wouldn't be able to tell you. So yeah, that's about it. So sorry I couldn't really answer that question or those questions, but I just don't have any answers. So next we've got Pyramid Pharaoh asks, "Where are you from?" I'm from Connecticut in the U.S. Um, Connecticut, it's part of New England, so I'm a New Englander, and it's a good place to grow up, I guess. I'm not from. Connecticut is like a super rich part of the U.S., but I'm not. Like Connecticut has these horribles, like this horrible divide, like the Connecticut River divides the state in half, and there's like the rich half, and there's like the rundown mill area of Connecticut. That's where I'm from. I'm like not from a family with money at all, and you know, I live near Hartford, which is like one of the shittiest cities in America. So, yeah, I'm from Connecticut though. So yeah, thanks for the question. Next, we've got Comic Con reviews. What JRPG got you into the genre? JRPG? I'm trying to think like what would be the first JRPG I played. I want to say it's Final Fantasy on the Nintendo. I played RPGs before that, but mostly they were PC RPGs and stuff like Wizardry and Ultima. And even then, I think one of the first RPGs I played was Bard's Tale, and that's like I played on the Apple II. So, I think a lot of my love for RPGs comes from Western RPGs and specifically dungeon crawlers. So, but I'm pretty sure the first JRPG I played was Final Fantasy on the Nintendo, and I really liked Final Fantasy on the Nintendo. It's a really good game. I liked that you could build the parties and like halfway through the game they would like grow up, the sprites would get bigger and you'd have like a different class essentially. I really liked that part of the Final Fantasy 1, and that was a game that like I never even owned it. I don't think. I just think I borrowed it from a friend and played it that way but I remember when it came out and I remember being really excited to play it because it was like a kind of game that reminded me of Ultima when I played it. And it's obviously different. And if you can play Ultima 3 on the Super Nintendo, on the regular Nintendo, and I would recommend playing that because it's a really good game. But it's obviously Final Fantasy is a bit different, but it's good stuff. So then next, what Japanese developed RPG game or franchise would you recommend to casual players? So, okay, an RPG for casual players. I don't. I would recommend the Yakuza series for casual players. It's not short, but it's not hard to play. It's an action RPG, so it's not turn-based or anything, and you just kind of run around and fight a bunch of people. But it does have a level up system. It's got your kind of choosing your abilities on a scale like I don't know, like a chart or whatever. You can kind of build up what abilities you want to use. It's got like unlockable secret stuff. It's got side quests. It's got all that stuff, and it's really easy to get into. It's the kind of thing where like it's relatable in ways that your standard kind of the stereotype of a JRPG is like a Final Fantasy character, spiky hair and belt buckles all over the place. But it's not anything like that. It's just so much fun. It's so good, and it's so easy to get into for normal people. I think just like people who aren't even fans of fantasy or just like regular, JRPG kind of tropes. It doesn't have any of that. So I would recommend that because it's a lot of fun and it does have English, so for most of the games at least. So yeah, thanks for the questions. We've got next Metal Miko or Miko, whatever. I don't know. Uh, I don't know. So let's see. Any favorite books or authors? I've got a lot of books and authors that I like. But favorite authors, I'm a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard. And when you get stuff like those two are, they're pulp writers from the 20s and 30s. And I like a lot of pulp writers from the 20s and 30s, but especially Lovecraft and Howard because they kind of built some amazing mythologies and they cross over with each other. They were friends. And when you see, well, here's a good example. Not this one. No, this is a good example. This is the horror stories of Robert Howard. But there are a lot of stuff. There's like a lot of kind of Cthulhu mythos references in here. And on the cover is what's his face? Trying to. Well, I can't believe I can't remember Solomon Kane on the cover. But I've got pretty much all of this book series. This is like a collection of Robert Howard's stories, and they're done by theme. So like a lot of these books have repeat stories in there. This is like the horror stories of Robert Howard, and like obviously Solomon Kane is on the cover, but there is like Solomon Kane by Robert Howard, and it's all the Solomon Kane stories. So like there's obviously an overlap. But I have pretty much all of these books. There's a ton, and even ones for like boxing stories and like pirate stories that aren't totally unrelated to his normal kind of dark fantasy stuff like Conan. And another thing, Conan, if you read the Robert Howard stuff, it's actually supposed to be set in the same kind of Cthulhu world of H.P. Lovecraft. Howard has said that the Conan world is essentially the old world of the Cthulhu mythos. I mean, character like monsters from the Cthulhu mythos show up in Conan, so it's like that. They talked a lot through letters, but H.P. Lovecraft also. Those are like some of my favorite like book authors, I'd say. But I read a lot of nonfiction too. Well, I'm trying to favorite another awesome book. I got some books over here I'm gonna try and grab, but this book right here is amazing. If you can get this book, I don't think it's in print, and it's probably hard to find. But this book is Evolution of a Cro-Magnon, and it's Evolution of a Cro-Magnon is a book by John Joseph, who is the singer for the Cro-Mags, and it's like this awesome. It's an awesome kind of look at New York and the hardcore scene and the punk scene in the 80s. It's so good, and the stories he tells in this book, hilarious. There's some hilarious ones, and I think on YouTube there's a video of him reading a chapter about from this book that's off the wall hilarious. Like just search for the Evolution of a Cro-Magnon on YouTube and see if the video comes up. And there's a video of him talking about being a Hare Krishna and getting donations, and it's really funny. So find that. But this is like a great book for people who enjoy that kind of thing about if you like New York in the 80s. It's the kind of thing that I really it's like a time period of New York that I'm really interested in. I have a bunch of books about it, but that one especially is good. And also Tales of Times Square, if you can get that. It's printed by Feral House. That's another good book about New York in the 80s. But those two books are really good. Those aren't by specific authors, though. They're just books I would recommend reading if you are into that kind of thing. So, yeah, next question. If you were an animal, which would you be and why? An animal? I don't know. I honestly don't know. An animal? What kind of animal would I be? I don't know. I'll be a lemur, I guess. I can just... It seems alright. Lemurs can just kind of hang out in trees, relax a lot, hang by their tail. That seems fun. I don't know. I have no idea. Let's see. Do you have any hidden talents? Um, Hidden talents? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like skills? Like something I can do that I haven't mentioned? Because I can do like special effects makeup was something I can do, but like man, I can do things like I can pull my arm out of the socket at will. So that might be the same kind of thing you're talking about. I don't really know, but I can actually show you that. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but here's my arm. I can pull it behind my head and out of the socket right there. So I can actually move it all the way over. It's totally out of the socket. You can't really see it, but you can see when it pops back in right there. That's about it. I don't know. That's my only hidden talent, I think. I can pop my arms out of the sockets um, without pain. It doesn't hurt at all. Um, but beyond that, that's kind of a weird thing. Yeah. So let's see. Do you watch any HBO, Showtime, or AMC programs? Pretty much no. I don't have a way to watch those. You know, I moved to Japan before AMC started even making programs, so I've never seen Mad Men or, and I actually did buy the first season of The Walking Dead to watch, but I've only watched the first episode. I haven't watched more than that, and I, what happened is like it doesn't have subtitles in Japanese on the disc, and I'd like to watch it with somebody else, but instead of just watching it alone. And I don't mind watching it alone, but it would be more fun to watch with some other people. But none of my friends really speak or understand enough English to watch a TV show with no subtitles. So I haven't got around to it. And I have a ton of like other DVD TV shows that I should watch first or that I want to watch first. So out of all of those things, like HBO shows, I don't even know any. Game of Thrones, I guess I haven't. Is that on HBO or Showtime? I don't know. I haven't watched it though. I don't know any shows that are on Showtime. The only show I used to watch on Showtime was Masters of Horror, and that was only on for one season, I think. So I guess no for pretty much all of those. I don't watch any TV shows regularly. Um, I don't download any shows. I don't really watch shows. But sometimes, like, I'll buy a DVD set or a Blu-ray set of the season of something if it's somebody is like really recommending it to me. But like, I have like the John Adams miniseries is like the last thing I watched, and that's like pretty old at this point. So yep. Next question: do you ever feel a slight void between you and your Japanese friends or significant others? And he actually explained this more, like, but I know what he's saying, like, because there's obviously a language issue with between like being able to say exactly what you want to say in your native language and not being able to do it exactly the same way in your foreign language, I guess your second language. Yeah, I guess there is that. There was not so much anymore, but when I first moved to Japan, I had a lot of trouble communicating because I couldn't really speak Japanese all that well. And I could communicate. It wasn't that I couldn't communicate at all. Even like, when I first started studying, it was hard, but I could get mostly what I wanted to say across. And I was in a band with these guys who were it was the weirdest thing because they're like crazy Japanese nationalists. They're like they're kind of people who like go to pray to the emperor on Emperor's Day and stuff. Like they were like hardcore into that stuff. And strangely, I was in their band, and we used to talk about that kind of stuff. And I would have I could understand the topic, but I would have trouble explaining to them what I wanted to say. And it was pretty. So that was. There were times when there was stuff like that where I just felt like, man, I wish I could, connect with these guys better in a way that I could like explain to them what I really mean. And I could probably do it now, but it's the kind of thing. It's a little late. So at this point, I feel like, for the most part, I don't feel any kind of, gap. I feel okay with like explaining myself and telling people what I think. And it's even easier when it's like a girlfriend or something. I can just be like, well, I'm pretty good at explaining myself and being angry or being happy or whatever. I don't have much trouble with that. So I think like, but if you're worried about that kind of thing, like it's almost always like when you're just in your kind of beginning phase of learning Japanese or you're just not confident enough with it. But as you use it more and more, you just kind of get more and more comfortable with it, and it doesn't. You don't really have that same kind of feeling, for the most part. I mean, it still happens every once in a while where I'm just like, I don't fucking know what I'm saying. But for the most part, it's fine. So, yeah. So next, in probably final question, because we're almost at an hour, Lupacillo, who is awesome. I love that guy. Look at his channel. Definitely subscribe to him. Um, he's a good guy. One of my favorite people on YouTube, actually. So he asks, "What do you think will be the future for the Japanese game market?" I shouldn't have read this question. I shouldn't have read this question because it's going to be too long. Japanese game market, people. You know what? I'm not going to answer this question. I'm going to wait till next time because I'm going to go way, way long on this one. It'll be the first question and it'll be long because I have a lot to say about this topic as well. And I don't want this video to go over an hour because sometimes, like, when the video is longer than an hour, it doesn't upload correctly to YouTube, and I'm not going to bother with that. I'm not going to reshoot the whole thing because of a little bit over. So I'm going to end it here today, part 3 of the Q&A, and we'll continue this in part 4. So see you guys next time.